Alright, so welcome back to DoItMyselfGarage. I'm going to show you a clip here in just a second of what I was working on today. I didn't film any of it. We had to get it done in a short period of time so the truck was usable again. We have a family trip planned for tomorrow, and so I just couldn't afford to try to take time to film it or anything else. We had to get it done, make sure we got the parts. But it turns out when we had the fuel pump replaced on the truck, it was at a town far away, so I wasn't going to mess with it. Paid some guy $800 and some to do it. Yeah, I found out how much the parts really were. You forgot to put the gasket in there. So when you put the fuel pump down inside, it has a lock ring on top of the tank. The lock ring wasn't holding. Was fine when you filled it up, because most of the time he was, fill it up 3/4, whatever. Well, he went to go fill it up completely full to top it off, and obviously the gas spilled out the top of the tank. So, very bad deal. We had to drop the entire tank, and all it was missing was the rubber O-ring that goes in there. It's like an $11 item, but we had to drop the entire tank, disconnect everything, get that in there, pull the fuel pump out, so I might as well replace the fuel pump at this point. Put the fuel pump back in with this ring on it, and now it doesn't leak at all. So, real quick video here. Fuel tank was leaking only when you topped it off. The individual that will remain nameless that replaced my fuel pump didn't put the rubber gasket in there, so there was no seal. So you were fine filling the tank as long as you didn't try to top it off. We had to take the entire tank out of the truck just because someone forgot the rubber O-ring. That's what I was working on today. Got a bit of a mess here on the workbench. I had cleaned up last week, got everything organized. One of the things I organized was kind of my to-do list. So this is the washer pump for the car. I got a whole bunch of extra parts here. I've got my dome light that I was working on, that whole headliner project that I mentioned before. I bought a this light I'm going to try to use for a third brake light on that headliner thing that I'm building. I'll show you that overhead console. And then I still didn't get around to wiring up the lights for under the dash. So we have a family trip planned for tomorrow, so I may or may not get a lot of content for this week for the channel, but I want to at least kind of give you an update of what I was doing. Probably when I get back tomorrow night, because I kind of a night owl, I'll probably go through how to solder up and lay out those wires so you can have some LED lights under your dash, whether they're for the factory spots like I'm going to do with the rubber grommets. I showed those before. I'll show you in more detail when I actually do it. If you're doing it for that or you're doing it for mood lighting, whatever, I'll show you how to wire up the LEDs. Real simple, real nice enhancement to do to a lot of cars, especially if you have bulbs that are kind of hard to replace. It's kind of nice to do them once. LEDs, unless you short them out or give them way too much voltage, they'll last a long time. So hopefully the next video I'm shooting, or the next segment, will be us working on some of that stuff, working on this overhead console for the GTO. Alright, I am not sure how far I'm going to get on this tonight. It's kind of a late night. We went to the Minnesota Renaissance Festival today, and yeah, it got a little late. But I wanted to go through some things. So right now I've got 12 volts hooked up to this LED. If you ever worked with LEDs, it's a light emitting diode, but the cool thing about diodes is they only let power go through one way. I have it hooked up backwards right now, which will not hurt it as long as I don't use too much voltage. It's probably 50 or 100 volts that would actually cause it to actually, break the diode, would actually overpower it, and the diode would fail. It would reverse the polarity the other way. It would actually jump the gap. So LEDs have to be hooked up a certain way. So I've got the ground on the white and the power on the black. I just wanted to show that. So if I switch these back around the way they should be, okay, power on the white and ground on the black, look at that, lo and behold, I've got a light. So that's something just to keep in mind when you're wiring stuff up. You got to pay attention to the polarity on it. It's not like a regular incandescent bulb. You have to have the polarity right, or these won't work. So if you have something that you're going to put together and you're not absolutely sure, you can always test it. Here I'm using a 12 volt battery charger that has, you know, overload protection in case I screw up. You know, you could use some batteries. Even a 9 volt battery a lot of times will light up a small 12 volt circuit, at least temporarily, just to try it out. But now I know that I have this correctly. I've got the white is the hot and the black is the ground. And once I get this put together in the car, I can keep that in mind going forward to make sure that I have that on there correctly. Anyway, I got this put on here. I didn't show it. Got the bracket on here, drilled the hole through so I could run the wires. This is going to be the hot line. The reason I did this, I'll show you. If you had spade terminals and you're going to run a hot lead, it's good to use an insulated type. So it doesn't need to be insulated on this side because this will be unhooked. But if this side were hot and it were to fall off and touch something, that would be bad. So I use the insulated type. So that way when you push it on here, you know, it's covered up and it can't short out. So anyway, that's going to be my hot lead. I got this really long wire here. This needs to run to ground, and I'm not sure where I'm going to run the ground because this is wood. I'm not sure if I'm going to screw it to the ceiling or exactly what, because I need to be able to make this so I can put it up and down easily. So I had enough wire I could run it all the way to the front and ground it out with the rest of the electronics that are going to go on here. So I had that extra piece of wire, so I just did that. Pretty sure my third brake light wire I'm just going to bring up out of the trunk, up along the side of the sail panel, up along the edge and over the top, and then plug it right into this. There's plenty of wire for that third brake light, and then I'll have a makeshift third brake light. If I don't like how it looks, I can always take it off of here. You can't even really hardly see the screw holes that I made in this, and it's toward the back. But it'd be kind of nice to have a third brake light. Back to these LEDs real quick. I got these off of Amazon. I'll leave the link to this item in the description. But I believe it was a 30 pack, and they're all pre-wired. So they actually come, let me show you what we got here. Come with a nice long wire. They are, you know, a small gauge because they hardly take any current. So whatever you do, you'll have to either crimp them or solder them to get them to hold in place. If what you're crimping to, if you don't have crimp terminals that are small enough, a lot of times what I'll do, if you strip back a ways, you can fold the wire over itself once or twice to kind of get you a thicker piece of wire to crimp on, and that'll usually hold plenty well. Otherwise, you can solder these. And you're soldering far enough away from the LED, you don't have to worry about the heat. But there's plenty of length there. If you need it, you can always cut them shorter. These are just clear, but they had different colors you could get. I think they even had some that changed colors if you wanted to. You know, they have multiple leads for different colors. I just needed clear because I'm using these for interior lighting, and they're bright, but they're not super bright. So we'll see if they work. Since I was talking about the polarity, one of the things I wanted to mention, this particular light here is LED, but for whatever reason, there's a little board built in here. It doesn't matter what polarity you hook it up to. This one, this one's LED. This one does matter what polarity you hook up to. If you hook it up the wrong way, it just won't light up. So keep that in mind. Be sure you test your stuff before you install it. Otherwise, you could get into something and figure out you have your polarity backwards and wonder why it's not working. And well, most of the time LEDs are pretty reliable. But if you hook it up wrong, it's not gonna work. But this particular one here will work either way. But it is LED, so that's kind of something to kind of watch out for. I was kind of wondering why they didn't have plus and minus really labeled on this, and that's why, because it doesn't matter on this one. On this one, they actually had red and black wires. They came out that specified, ground and hot. But on this one it didn't, and sure enough, it didn't matter. I just went over to mock this up in the car, and I feel like an idiot. This is the ceiling. So if I want this to show, it's going to have to be hanging down here. So I'm going to have to move this light. it's getting really late, so I'm probably not going to mess with that tonight. I probably, in second thought, I probably shouldn't have worked on this at all tonight. I already made a mistake, so not that big of a deal. That's kind of where we're at for the week. Not a lot of progress done on the GTO. I did get the truck outside fixed, got that fuel tank, just got a gasket on the top of the fuel tank that was missing. Got that replaced. It was an $11 gasket that the other repair place forgot. It happens. You can see I've got my Renaissance Festival shirt on. You know, you got to go out there for that big old turkey leg. I'll keep plugging away on this console. You know, it might end up being a boondoggle and I don't use it, but I wanted to at least try something. And yeah, I was tired and put the light on the wrong edge, so I'm gonna have to unscrew that and move it over. Anyway, thanks again for following along. Like, share, subscribe. Please check out my previous videos. They're way more interesting than this one. But we're coming along. I like to put at least weekly content, and if nothing else, at least an update on what's going on so everybody knows I'm alive. We're still making content. This winter, the big project on the interior of the car is going to be stereo and getting all the lighting and getting this headliner and stuff finished. Again, I don't have an exact plan. I'm probably going to put speakers in the door, probably put some type of an amplifier in there so I get some decent bass. Not going to put some, you know, big old 12-inch subwoofers or nothing in there. But I like having a nice stereo. And it kind of sucks driving on a nice car without a decent radio to go with it. So anyway, thanks again, everybody, and we will see you in the next video. Take care.